at the moment.
You have a lot of people like Tucker Carlson, like you mentioned, and others that seems like they're backing Iran in this war.
He doesn't know Jack, with all due respect to him. And I saw his interview in Jordan, and he was so misinformed. I think sticking your nose through the microphone for too long makes one think that they're smart. And I would say, Mr. Carlson, do your homework before you render yourself very irrelevant in the first instance, because you're talking nonsense. When you came to Jordan, Mr. Carlson, you spoke about how lovely the situation of the Christians in Jordan was, which you and I as a Jordanian know is absolute nonsense. Jordan's an apartheid state, one of the worst in the world and one of the worst in history. He couldn't notice that. So I'm not in the position of taking a lot of journalists too seriously.
On the flip side, he came to Israel for a few hours. He did an interview with Ambassador Huckabee, and he said that the Christians are persecuted in Israel. So he says that Christians do better outside of Israel when the truth is the opposite. The only country where the Christians are flourishing in the Middle East is Israel, correct?
Well, let's look at Palestinians in the West Bank, not Christians. Let's look at Muslim, so-called, they're not, absolutely not Arabs, but okay, let's call them Arabs for the sake of this interview. So-called Arab Muslims in the West Bank. They are considered the ones, Palestinians, they are considered the ones living under Israeli occupation. Their income per capita is higher than most Arab countries. The average marriage rate for males, the marrying age for males, because you marry when you have money, when you have the resources to marry. They marry in their mid to late 20s. In Jordan, men could barely get married by their early 40s. The fertility rate is very high. The property ownership in Jordan, for example, just across the river, it's very, very distant dream to have your own property, even if it's a small apartment. In the West Bank, they're thriving. You go to Bethlehem, Ramallah, Jericho, you see those stores. When Israel didn't have a Starbucks, Bethlehem had its own Starbucks. I used to go there. Christians, likewise, they are thriving in Israel, even within the territories which people are calling occupied, because of the Israeli system. Now, don't get me wrong. Israel, they have to change their ways in the sense that the West Bank is still under military law. Well, this is rather stupid. The West Bank should be annexed, and the Israeli civil law should be extended to the West Bank. The ones standing against this are Arab countries in particular, threatening left and right, including the King of Jordan at one point threatening war should this happen. For now, Palestinians in the West Bank are dealing with the Israeli Borders Police, the Israeli army, because Israel has not announced the West Bank as an extension territory of Israeli civil law. Once Israel does that, extends Israeli law into the West Bank territory, Palestinians would start dealing with Israeli police, which is completely different. Why is Israel not doing that? Because the West, the United States in particular, have been preventing Israel from doing that. There is hope that this will take place under this administration. There's also the fact that the war in the Middle East, the ongoing war, has shaken the entire old structure put in by the French and Britain 100-something years ago. So all Arab regimes are subject to certain changes, one of which would be Jordan